Uh, oh, are we are we live? Yeah, we are functioning. This is big content, undoubtedly. Anyways, also I didn't change this. I am hearing myself. Yeah, I am hearing myself. Shut up. Thank you. So here we are. It has happened after like I don't know a week or so of no streams. Here we are. Uh, Once again, something beautiful to make promises and to later on never deliver. I, I guess I will say in that sense, I want to try and stream with a little bit more consistency, at least for like a week or so. I have I have some free time finally, so that is quite a beautiful thing by nature, I guess. It's surprising to see that it is finally happening. Like after a whole year of so much stuff, it is finally ending. I don't even know how much of a rest I will get in the vacations and whatnot. I don't even understand how they work, but yeah, I have also that probably. Anyways, I wanted to change something. Let me do it. There it is. Wow, what an amazing change. Anyways, as I was trying to say, or I mean, I wasn't really saying anything. I was just kind of giving excuses. Now properly starting. Uh, it has been quite a long time since I said anything for real here, so I guess the first question would be where are we even in terms of ideas and whatnot? Um, I don't even remember at this point if I think I did mention something about it. I will try to produce some kind of text, some kind of uh, yeah, understandable and digestible idea by itself, so to speak. Something that can minimally be functional to comprehend any kind of problem. I was trying to go about it while thinking in the method, preferred to do it in a very well known concept that doesn't particularly apply to these kind of writings, but that can still be translated into it. That is in fantasy, at the very least in science fiction, there is quite an interesting way of structuring a narration and making sense or presenting the whole setting, so to speak, to the viewer and to the reader itself. And what ends up being more interesting than that is to see after, let's say, 3/4 of the book of one particular story, to see that the final quarter can fully extend itself into something deeper and something more, in that term, finally fictional, more, even if it is within the boundaries of science fiction, fictional and capable of escaping the initially set limits of what is understood and what not. And it is quite a, in that sense, quite an interesting idea when you see how it kind of correlates to what it is that you do when you even try to write anything. After all, most times, sadly, it is an obligation to properly present the arguments and the yeah, and the ideas themselves that you are trying to in any manner discuss if you want to per yeah to enable the proper understanding of what you are trying to talk about, so to speak. You cannot assume that anybody will innately get what you are even referring to, but rather you should do as much of an honest work as you can in terms of letting almost no question unanswered when it comes to what you are trying to present. It is, let's say it like this, if there is truly any desire to express any idea, then it should be pretty obvious that you should be trying, by nature of that very same thing, how to how to let your ideas themselves be understood, let's say, in yeah, in a different field of discussion. You can very much express which semantic field you are on, so that it is even easier to go through your whole discourse in a manner that is fulfilling enough. And you can do it actively instead of being destroyed by so many of the concepts that happen when you try to, in any other manner, discuss what you supposedly like and what's not. So, in that sense, I guess there is no way to escape the question or escape the idea of it will take time. But sadly, everything takes time, and even more. I will, I will use the excuse in this time around of, at the very least, it is something truly born out of interest and something that seems to be a truly pressing matter, at the very least, at the very, very least, from a personal perspective. So, you can kind of ensure that even if it takes time, the results might as well be beneficial, simply because it is about an idea, something that oneself can truly see and describe as important. So yeah, now again, in other words, it means I said that I wanted to produce something that is true. I said that I wanted to do it before this year ends, I think so, before. That isn't true. I might as well take some more time. I don't know. For example, something that I didn't I didn't knew about. There was this guy Nietzsche, and there was something particular that happened in one of the productions of one of the most famous texts that the guy made. That is, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, and that is that whole text happened in like how much 10 days, because he went kind of in a maniac episode trying to create it. So I guess if something like that were to happen, perhaps I will do it in less time than what I expect. But if not, I wouldn't trust myself in terms of, yeah, it won't take me so much time. Uh, we still have, in terms of ensured existence, as long as nothing goes wrong, We should have, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 decades to work on these things, so to speak. Not that, not, okay, certainly not that it will take me that long to create anything. That will be quite disappointing, sorry. But rather, in terms of, it is quite understandable if it were to take, like, I don't know, 1 or 2 months to finish something of value truly. But anyways, I haven't even started working on that. I am just kind of at this point. I will even go as far as to say, running from the idea of doing it. It is quite complex in nature. If there is something that disappoints a lot, it is the nature of realizing that the works one wishes to do can be as good as one is capable of expressing them, and there is no other way around that. Even if the interpreter who reads what has been said might have a different opinion which completely transforms what is the original message, it doesn't mean that making sure that as many different parts of the message are understandable as it is possible will make the whole message itself something even easier to get. So yeah, working on those things will be kind of hard, I guess. I I will have to keep on thinking about it. I don't even know at this point. I don't have any idea. But yes, it's something that happens. I will simply say it's something that happens and that takes some time. It is indeed just another part of this whole adventure of being alive. I will describe it as. Anyways, that's like the second thing, I guess. In in reality, I haven't even defined properly which narration I want to make or where to even. Yeah, there are quite a handful of doubts in that sense. Not even knowing where to publish something like that, how, based on which identity, obviously. I say it. I say it so much. It is. It is a little bit deeper than what I am even comfortable talking about, but obviously, if if anybody produces anything that can be considered valuable, even if what has been produced by itself might be powerful enough, sorry, to be in any manner utilized later on in the very same field in which it is encapsulated, this doesn't mean that there should be no attempt whatsoever to make it something serious, so to speak, something that can indeed allow the the reader basically to take it as something properly well intended and something that tries in as many ways as it can to be a text capable of giving a meaning to the question that it is talking about without assuming any other thing about the reader and almost forcing the reader to take a stance on previous things that will unavoidably taint the manner in which it is read. What does any of that mean? It means basically, instead of this tiny context, sadly, I don't want to. I wish I could. I don't want to truly say that it will be the best play, at the very least, to do it. behind what we have in front of us right now. There is there is a certain unavoidable desire to try and keep challenging even that very nature of being. Certainly, even if it were to be a text that might have to some degree, some technical aspects behind it, it doesn't mean that it is aimed to the academy or whatever. I don't think it works that way, and I don't think even less that it will, in any meaningful manner, be something that any clever person would be capable of dealing with simply because it is inside of that field and nothing else. It is something that should be valuable enough by itself. It doesn't mean that people doesn't have different biases and whatnot that will alter the way in which it is read. So, if I know that in this case I am not being direct enough with what I am even trying to talk about, I mean an excuse. I am simply excusing myself behind. It is hard to properly say it. I mean that sadly it might be a very huge possibility that whatever gets made and whatever we end up discussing isn't done here. And I wish for it to happen instead of this space. I think that is kind of a proper discussion to have at some point. There is a certain degree of friction that exists within the boundaries of what is virtual and what not, that it doesn't need to truly be taken so seriously, not because virtuality cannot allow in any manner something important to be expressed. It is even disappointing to hear something like that and curiously see people disregarding messages or discussions entirely just because they are contained within the limits of what is an online discussion or whatnot. It is it is quite horrible even to see people try to have any kind of talk about those things and see how prone to the complete in terms of acceptance and viewpoints and whatnot, normalization of a negative view on what is the virtual medium that we have in our hands. There is nothing more in terms. I know that I overuse it certainly, but let's say it like this: we could be a lot better positioned when it comes to the tools that we possess right now if we were to realize, for example, that something like this very same space in which we are, in this case, instead of the live itself, we are inside of Twitch. Even if it weren't to be exactly inside of Twitch, even if it were to simply exist within internet, within any space which allows your self-expression to, as long as it is according to the rules and whatnot, any space which allows something like that is invaluable enough because it lets you say stuff like this and because it lets you go on as many interests of yourself as you can. And it is disappointing to hear people say, yeah, you know what, there is no point in trying to utilize the virtual medium because it might as well change how I see something and it might negatively affect what I am trying to accomplish. It is kind of the opposite being real here. It is just another way to talk and just another way to have any kind of proper communication. I mean, to a certain degree, even in the present era, or even more in the present era, it doesn't make sense to act so full of oneself when it comes to internet. It is literally the way in which you can connect with whoever you want across the globe so that you can have any proper discussion without the need of the physical aspect, something that would, if it were to be by itself, so impossible to deal with. After all, so many people struggle to arrange themselves, their times, their whole schedules, even more. If you're talking about people who have different situations and whatnot, which might force them to not even have that benefit, that possibility, it is quite dumb. I mean, I am being lax here. It is quite stupid to say, internet doesn't have that value, and even less if it is presented in a manner in which it doesn't seem to be serious. What is being talked about might as well not be serious enough. It is quite disappointing to hear something like that. At which point do you gain the capacity to completely negate the realities of seeing people doing something that means anything to them, and out of nowhere being the most de- decabrate and completely depressed almost being that negates whatever happens for the sake of doing it? Or I don't even get why, but it happens, I guess. It happens in that sense. It can happen and it keeps happening. So that's why, if it were to be a possibility, I will try to make it, whatever text I make, in a way in which it can be taken seriously. You know, it is a desire. But yeah, anyways, welcome, Ayumu. I hope you're doing well. I hope you are indeed doing well. Basically, once again, I kind of quickly tried to calm down. The point itself is that basically, sadly, even if all the possibilities are there, we can we can enjoy even the results of trying to create something and sharing whatever happens after so much time is spent on any work. Even if that is a possibility, it doesn't mean that it is the most useful one to go for, because sadly, I guess, thinking about it, it is obviously quite a contradiction to simply say, yeah, there are better ways, without acknowledging the reality of, and this could also transform very much in as much of a better way, or as of a good way, as the others are, as long as we're capable of working on this being taken seriously enough. I haven't found enough people in that sense. I at the very least, I have that excuse. I haven't found that many people interested in any kind of idea of that sort. There is something weird happening in that, and there is something quite, I wouldn't say simply disappointing, I guess more like appalling, that out of nowhere. Yeah, I don't know, that is kind of a whole different discussion, but people are not even interested in learning, in creating something truly meaningful. People are so easily the dismissive of themselves, of their capacities nowadays. In those terms, it is weird. It is completely, completely, disappointing to see that. Not because that's the worst part. Not because people doesn't truly have the capacity to do anything of value, but rather because it is easier to give up out of nowhere and to not even give it a proper go. But anyways, as I was saying, that is a different discussion, not something that I am at the very least right now going to talk about. I guess it says in this case above my head on learning. That will probably be something that I will try to talk about properly after some time. Not right now. It takes too much time. That one idea takes too much time, and I don't want to start with that already. But yeah, going back into this whole very selfish talk, probably I will produce something. Probably I will try to publish that in somewhere where it can be given some exposure. I mean, that's that's also the problem, no? That you can say, "Oh yeah, I want to do something, and I want it to go well." How much of that responsibility of the product that you created doing well are you assuming? Because certainly even more with something of that nature, if you can't even convince anyone with what you are talking about, of it being potentially interesting, how do you wish for people to take it seriously? No matter, I mean, I already said before, the main excuse is, oh wow, yeah, between what we have here right now and what we might have in a different field when it comes to a more serious space, you might see it that just because of that, there is a bigger possibility of whatever being then unavoidably taken as something more important, something more honest when it comes to its objectives and what it is that it was created for, even. It doesn't mean that from a personal viewpoint, there is no need to try and publicize, to try and properly communicate what you have just created, and to try and, as always, as I think at some point it became quite a very obvious part of this whole discourse, to persuade the people into getting them interested in what you're talking about, and to be capable of expressing why is it that anybody should spend time out of their day watching, reading, reviewing, whatever is it that you created. That's kind of the second thing that I was kind of avoiding, I guess, to mention even. It is easier to say, yeah, in a more serious space and whatnot, it might do, but no, it might not do well. It might never do well if the creator of that were to simply drop their text and never again pay attention to what is the reaction of the public. What's the point even? What's You don't live in a world in which everybody automatically is willing to watch out for whichever most important thing appears in the horizon next. Many people are not even willing to go outside of their comfort zone when it comes to entertainment, and you expect them to out of nowhere challenge themselves when it comes to knowledge, to hold deeper ideas that are embedded between something that has to deal with their philosophical views, their whole anthropologic manners of understanding the world. You will truly expect that people out of nowhere will willingly venture themselves onto something like that. It doesn't mean that everything besides the simple expression of what you have inside of your own mind isn't valuable. It means that it is quite naive, I guess, in this case, to say, yeah, I will create something, and just because I created that, it will do well. It kind of in the complete opposite. It makes even more sense to do it here, that people understand what is the discussion, understand where this is coming from, or might even try to have any idea about that, than to do it in a more serious manner where literally a complete new face appears and out of nowhere tries to say something. You know, it is in that sense disappointing to say, yeah, and it might not get enough exposure. Obviously, it might not. It might as well completely do the opposite. It might as well be as important as it gets and get as many eyes as any text can in the present era just because you were capable of putting enough effort onto that. I don't know, anyways. That's that's kind of the main reason, I guess, as to why I have to keep thinking where even it is going to be published, how it is even going to be structured and whatnot. I guess just just to properly round that thing up before moving on, I was even considering something like a WordPress. I guess that will be obviously not the best way, but at the very least something. At the very least something. So yeah, texts and whatnot. Anyways, I guess now I no more discussion about that. Thank you. Uh, as always, there are like 1,000 different things to talk about and 1,000 different ideas to try and minimally consider. Uh, Even more taking into account that even less and less we have been consistently going live in this case. So, on a different question, on a different discussion, I guess, okay, it might take some time, but let me start with this one. Throughout this whole year, one of the many subjects that I had to study was semantics. No, semiotics, not semantics, semiotics. Semantics are inside of the field of semiotics. Uh, and it has been quite an interesting way of seeing things. It is quite a useful manner to understand what it is that we talk about when we analyze a speech and whatnot. It is certainly fulfilling to understand those ideas, so to speak. They allow for a very useful way of seeing many different communication spaces that do exist in in the present era, obviously, and even more than just that, the ones that did exist before, just because it is a very old, not the oldest, not in any manner the oldest, but at the very least older than anybody who is as of right now alive, a very old science, so to speak. And inside of it, why are women discussing this? Inside of that, there is something quite interesting. That is how interconnected it is by nature with so many different fields of knowledge. It was, I will say, probably, it was a very revolutionary way to see the present, yeah, the present manners in which, from a more abstracted way, the human communicates within itself, to itself, within the different systems that itself has created, so to speak, in without being so as abstract. It is basically a science focused on the different, uh, to some degree, something focused on the analysis of the different methods and different ways in which something gets expressed, interpreted, and transmitted in a more, yeah, in yet another way of saying that it will be like going back to linguistics, not to literature, going back to that subject of high school and whatnot. It is as if you were to elevate those concepts a little bit more even. And it is very interesting and it is very also simple if you get the ideas. It isn't in any way a complex science. It isn't like mathematics or whatever where you needed to be constantly analyzing for different harder structures and ideas and applying so many theorems. It isn't like that. Even if it is an old science based on the previously exposed manner of understanding that, as in, it has more years existing than many people present here. No, not many people present here than anybody. Can anybody? It is literally like a 100 or so years old science, and instead of that, it is quite interesting to see how useful it can be. But once again, why are we even discussing this? Why are we even discussing semiotics? We are not a semiotics channel. Because subjective experience, I am learning about that. I have been learning about that, and I have yet to continue learning about it. But something quite wonderful that happened was it is so easy to understand that it ignites innately, I will say, the curiosity of those who before had an easy time understanding how communication happens and whatnot, because it is basically the main science focused on the study of communication and how any of those things are properly created in a play field in which as many messages as it can exist do exist. So it is, by nature, something that should be of any interest to whoever tries to, once again, going back to what I said before, to say anything that matters minimally. It allows basically to understand a little bit more from a subtracted standpoint how it is that we can be here and how it is that we can even ensure that what is being created gets properly made of and properly interpreted into something not only meaningful, because everything will have a meaning, but also useful and successfully enabling towards the future that we are searching for. Besides that once again, because that is also a point, not the point of what we are discussing here. Semiotics, interesting field, but also very interconnected, but also something that is quite hard if you have never even heard of it, like it was my case. Something quite hard to get at first, even if it is something that has many ideas that throughout life one has already explored and one has already kind of analyzed before without knowing that that these particular ideas were part of semiotics and whatnot. Even with all of that, it is still quite hard to get because, as always, there are many different ideas that might have been present already, that we knew of already, but you need to do the proper connection inside of them, inside of this whole field, and you need to properly ascertain, so to speak, what is even the point of what you are learning. Something quite complex by nature, but as long as anybody has curiosity, it can properly happen. There is nothing better than to see any kind of a student interested in properly getting the theory that is being shared. And inside of that field, this is where I was trying to go with what I said before. That this is where we are going to lose some time. This is where the discussion gets kind of long. Everybody can connect ideas, and that is kind of a principle in this case even of semiotics, that as long as the message itself is understandable enough, anybody should be capable of accepting and properly integrating to their already existing field of knowledge what is being presented as something feasible and useful enough to sustain. This part is simple enough. The problem is, in the modern world, it happens somehow that it is seen as something okay to not have that interest. That is what I talked about before, that people seem to have lost that desire to learn anything. I mean, I have been having this discussion very repeatedly lately with my oldest family member. In this case, it is quite obvious where it comes from, but my grandma, who being so free, having so much time in their hands, has somehow given up on the possibility of learning, who somehow has decided to not even give it any try anymore whatsoever, to discover whatever might be instead of the books, instead of the knowledge that is already, I said it before, contained inside of internet. It is something wonderful to see that you can ask whatever you want and you will get an answer. It doesn't mean that the answer you get will be the completely correct one. That is part of the reader's responsibility to understand that sometimes it might happen that you might ask something and that the reply you get in response to your question isn't something truly fulfilling when it comes to the meaning that you were searching for, or to the proper knowledge that you were trying to understand. And it is a responsibility that lies within the reader, within the one who asks the question, so to speak. It is an obvious part of the present world that even in the most mundane of the knowledges, so to speak, it can still, and it might as well be something that happens constantly, that the main ideas do not get discussed, the main points do not get discussed, and the main things that matter do not get at all mentioned in any meaningful way. It might happen, but not because it might happen, it means that it is a necessity to ignore the reality of, and you can keep still asking, and you can keep still observing, and you can still keep trying your best to get a fulfilling response, a fulfilling piece of information that will allow you to keep on later on discovering whatever you wish to properly understand. It is that's that's the whole point, I guess, of why it is so disappointing. going back to what I mentioned before, particularly semiotics, it shows you everybody has the capacity to understand, yet somehow in the present world, so many people completely resign from that possibility. It is out of nowhere no more a concern that anybody has to keep on learning, to keep on discovering something meaningful. It is so much of a normal thing to say, yeah, I will give up on my dreams. I will not pursue anymore this one particular interest that I have. I will in no manner keep on exploring whatever. It is so much something accepted, and it is seen as something that it is fine to hear, and something that it is even given encouragement in the. How can you even say that it is fine to do something like that? Knowledge is completely available, and it is completely free for so many people. The conditions that allow the exploration of the particular interests of any subject are so much present already, yet somehow we're still struggling with all of that, and we can't even properly have a discussion about those things. It isn't a possibility to say, yeah, I can. I have the possibility to learn, and I have therefore the possibility to also keep on using my energies on something that is fulfilling. I do not I do not care about what. I do not want people to learn about any one particular topic. I do not fucking care what thing you choose. But it is completely idiotic to hear people say, yeah, the educational system has failed me. What is your assumption of responsibility from a civilian standpoint, so to speak? What is it that you can recognize how the system can't force you, can't put a gun at your fucking head and tell you, yeah, you know what, you should be taking lessons, you should be taking a responsibility to get a book and read something and learn. Where is that interest to discover that indeed you can learn about whichever topic you love so much? You can get even better at whichever field of knowledge you say you have so much passion for. It is incredibly disappointing to see that nature present in the modern world. It is incredibly negative to be existing almost in that sense. Once you realize that out of nowhere nobody's even interested in anything like that anymore, and that people, yeah, you know what, not only do I not see a possibility in learning, I will also attack whoever tries to teach anything, because I have always a constant negative bias towards myself, and I am always my worst enemy. I cannot refer to what I have in terms of capacities as anything else but a negative way of structuring how I perceive my capacities. And the moment in which you say that I might have some special gift or whatever, you are wrong by nature, because you cannot in any manner be correct if you are talking about something positive, something that might truly enable me. It is completely disappointing to see something like that. It is it is horrible to see the reality of out of nowhere. Yeah, you know what? Not only do I see it as something bad, the process of learning, because it takes time. Holy shit, it takes time. Not doing anything, not doing anything also takes time. It is incredibly. I guess the reality is, it is incredibly heartbreaking to see people abandon their interest because of that. So much, so much of the knowledge is free. So much is available already. And people doesn't want to even learn. It's like it is obviously going to be something hard, something that will be time consuming, no matter what you do. But I guess in that case, Turkite is completely right. Books are free. The information itself is free. You live in an era in which even if you were to completely ignore a book, you can still learn. You still have so many tools at your disposal. You can still accomplish so much if you are simply willing to discover what this world has to offer for the questions that you have inside of yourself. And people doesn't even want to do it. People live in a completely depressed state in which, no, yeah, you know what? If I were to use my energies on this one thing, I might. I don't even have a complete knowledge about it, but I might not get what I want. Therefore, I might as well not even try. At some point, the narrative became, yeah, you know what? I want to do anything that might be at any degree risky. I won't even try to do something risky because it might go badly. Wow, incredibly insightful revelation the human had that day, I guess. And since that day, the modern human being has been completely destroyed by itself. There is nothing better to see than a person incapable of realizing how much potential they have inside of themselves and struggling because they can't pursue anything meaningful, but not because they are incapable of, because they literally think they don't deserve to do it. They don't have the necessary virtues or something of that weird sort to do it. It is incredibly horrible in that sense. And this is where I was trying to go also before. Why I even brought up something like semiotics. Because, and in my personal experience, there is something wonderful that you can discover. I guess I don't think it shouldn't be that important to mention. It shouldn't truly contribute that much to the argument or whatever. But unavoidably, I am privileged. I have so many possibilities. I have the possibility of going to somewhere where people are willing to teach you, and I have also the privilege of not having to worry about spending money in that sense from a personal standpoint. But so many people are willing to teach you for free. So much of, once again, the knowledge itself is available already out there. You don't need to spend money on anything like that. You don't need to be somebody rich. Something, the ideas, what allows the person to be even more capable in the future isn't something that has been like it happened in the feudal era, completely paywalled, so to speak. So many of the tools, so many of the guides, so much of the information, so many of the news, so much of everything is available, so to speak, at one click of your mouse, at one search of your browser, and so much of it is completely accessible for anybody who's willing to learn how to navigate all of this media that we have in our hands. And once again, what I was trying to say before, and the worst part is not that, yeah, so many people have the possibility and don't realize that. I mean, from a teacher, I can't find a better word. From the standpoint of a teacher, I think it is quite depressing to not even be capable of realizing how much somebody truly likes something or not. Because the moment in which anybody in this world seems to show a signal of interest, since so many other people don't even try to care, don't even try to find something interesting, the moment in which anyone signals something like that, oh yeah, this person has so much potential. This person is finally the one who can usefully use the knowledge that I am trying to give out here. It is so disappointing to see something like that. It is so sad to see somebody who, by profession, teaches as capable of truly recognizing who cares and who truly has an aspiration for the knowledge and who doesn't, just because nobody cares. It is so weird, even, to be there, to be in a place in which it should be your obligation to learn. It should be your biggest concern to properly discover something useful, not even trying to give a fucking shit about what is happening. That out of nowhere, the person in charge of imparting the lesson believes that just because you're watching what happens, oh yeah, this person must certainly have an interest. This person has potential. It is so weird sometimes. It is so incredibly strange to see it happen like that. It is, I guess certainly it is disappointing to see that we have reached such a state, I guess, that people are not even willing to try, and that those who minimally venture into that are taking as the new hope. No, it both ends are incredibly depressive. Both ends are incredibly horrible in that sense. How can you give up on the possibility on learning, on discovering whatever you wish on one side, and on the other, how little do you find the people to truly care about what you say? That the first person who minimally shows an interest is out of nowhere somebody who has the whole potential of the world in their hands. It doesn't make sense to be so incapable of expressing anything like that. There is, I don't even get it. I mean, it is one of the main concerns of the human throughout history, even more in the present era. Yeah, you might have freedom. You might have the possibility of pursuing your passions. Which passions are the most useful ones to pursue? And out of nowhere, nobody's even trying to talk about, yeah, you know what? Pursuing knowledge is useful. Discovering things can truly allow you to get better, can truly let you be freer from your realities, can truly give you the tools that you need to keep on experiencing the world that you wish for so much. It doesn't happen. Where is the care? Where is that very same passion that anybody says they have? If you can't even spare a second of your day to say something like that, it is incredibly disappointing, I guess. And I don't know, man. Even if it is weird, pay attention. For the love of God, even if it is weird, it doesn't mean that it can't be solved. I mean, even if it is something hard, it doesn't mean that it can't be learned. It is something beautiful to discover how the capacity to properly get the ideas to resolve the problems and all of that exists within the human mind, that no individual can truly be called incapable of dealing with those situations, incapable of getting to a theoretical stage in which they can deal with what happens. It is disappointing to hear that it has been normalized. That, yeah, you know what? I might as well not even give any shit whatsoever about what I say so much that I have passion for. I won't. I won't even try it. I won't even spend some hours of my day doing something that truly gives me satisfaction. I have this many other completely meaningless, instantaneous, dopaminergic satisfactions which last nothing. I will instead pursue all of that, and later on, the most useful thing that I will do is complain. I will complain that I haven't accomplished anything of true value. I will keep on complaining every single day of my life that I haven't gotten into any better stage of existence because I was incapable of taking up the responsibility, but also the gift of learning as something serious. It is, I don't know, man. It isn't that hard. It isn't that hard at all. Most of the ideas are so easily accessible for everybody, yet people doesn't even try to care. So much of the language already lets the deepest type of communication to happen. Yet with that we do nothing. We remain in a very enclosed space where, yeah, you know what? Next distraction. Next distraction. Oh my god, this one new thing. And next distraction. It's incredibly disappointing. And I don't know. Some days I do wish it could happen that anybody who says something like that, no more internet access for you. You were given a gift. You were given one of the most precious tools, and you decided not only to misuse it, you decided to later on even complain about the conscious usage that you gave it. You are tainting everybody else's experience with your negativity, and you are talking as if it was the not your subjective reality, the objective one. You're talking as if it was really the only reality that can exist. We are going back into the most childish of the manners of, oh yeah, if this happens to me, it will unavoidably happen to everyone else. If I couldn't use something like a library in any meaningful manner, why do we have libraries? Why don't we burn every single library around the world? They are all meaningless. Sometimes I think that should be the solution. That isn't certainly. Being completely negative isn't the solution. But it gets everything takes time. And accepting that people need help also takes time, I guess. And accepting that sometimes people can't even be the ones who help themselves in that sense takes even more time, I guess. I don't know. I literally don't know. Anyways, let me drink some water. I need it. I mean, it is. I said it before. It is a long discussion. An unnecessarily long discussion. You have people who says that what is being discussed is hard to understand, that the ideas themselves are very complex to make sense of. How much are we already losing in that sense? How little of an effort there is to try and avoid all of this narrative. How little people cares about all of that. How little anybody tries to put their energy towards that fulfilling experience. It is so dumb to see it. Because the best thing is, it's a problem that can be solved by simply willingly doing something, anything at all. People say that it is hard to advance the knowledge, to discover anything new. How much have you tried? It is incredibly easy for me, as somebody who never in their whole life had anything to deal with any particular scientific field, to disregard whatever possibility there is of doing something new and useful. But that is the main point of learning, that it enables you to also theorize. That the moment in which you, as the subject of your own ideas, have in your hands the concepts that allow you to keep on going, you can see it becoming something more than what it was initially given to you. And that it evolves to such a degree that everything else is easier that if you were to propose yourself create some kind of useful theory, you might have a possibility, you might have a real chance at doing so. You might enjoy being the one who did something meaningful. And so many people don't even know that. So many people live in a state in which it is completely okay to not even think about that possibility. It is fine to say that, yeah, right now, it isn't a need or it isn't an obligation to have anything of that sort happen. That if it happens, it will be just a pure coincidence. I, I am sorry, but I don't like to live in such a. What's the proper way to say it? The derrotist, negative, nihilistic, whichever way you want to say it, society, one in which it is accepted that, yeah, you know what, you're going to have a hard time. Don't even try it. Don't even give it a go. Why would you even try if it is going to be hard? What's the point in doing something if it is going to be complex? I, I don't get it. I mean, once again, you see people saying that they had so much interest in something fail just because they couldn't realize how many possibilities they already had. They already had in their hands so many things are already in place in this present world for everybody who is willing to realize that. Yet people don't want to think about it even. People don't even want to believe that it can happen. It has been somehow converted into the most strange of the words, into the most stupid of the terms to say that, yeah, I have some kind of hope for what I wish to accomplish with my efforts. Out of nowhere, somebody failed once, literally once, and since there, it became the norm that everyone else shouldn't even give it a try. After all, somebody before didn't succeed at what personally I am trying. You know what? Time to take my efforts elsewhere, or time to completely throw them to the garbage bin and keep using my time on nothing fulfilling. And after that, I will do the best thing that will ensure my happiness. That is, together with people who do the very same thing as me, nothing, and complain that the world remains in the very same state that it has been in for the last century, because nobody is doing nothing. And I personally am not responsible for that because nobody cared for what I was trying. Why would I even try to care myself for what I do if nobody can even tell me that what I am doing is useful or not? I don't know, man. At some point, I guess people realizes that being like that is meaningless. I wish to believe that. I wish so hard to believe something like that. But on the other hand, you have the reality that people don't care, man. People don't care at all. It's so weird. How much one simple. I don't need a moment. I don't. I am not talking about decades, about a year, about a month. Sometimes some hours of learning can change everything. Some minutes properly paying attention to what you need to discover, what you need to keep on reinforcing, can enable the individual so much. And nobody cares for that. Nobody. Oh, yeah, you know what? I will tell you. Reading is nice. Good luck on everything else. It is obviously bound to fail the message if we do it so everything. The one who reads sits down 5 minutes, phone on one hand, book on the other. I will quote unquote pay attention to what I am reading. I literally learn nothing. I do nothing in my phone and I gain nothing. That is something that inside of the space that should ensure that I learn doesn't get properly seen as something bad. Yeah, we live in a world of freedom. We live in a world in which everything is so full of freedom. The love that we have for that world. Oh yes, we a country with freedom, a world with freedom, and a place where freedom might be the biggest desire. And out of nowhere, you realize that, yeah, you are so free to do so much that you are free to even fuck up completely your whole life. Because it is your right to do so, and everybody who tells you that you're doing something wrong because of that is the demon. It's the bad people in your story. It's the bad guy in your narrative. Why would anybody care for what you do? They must be trying to gain something, obviously. Why would anybody want you to learn? They are trying to make you a subjugated pig of the system. Wow, I am so clever, I deciphered the code. Wow! And nobody tries to say anything. Nobody tries to minimally care because of that. I don't know, man. I wish, sometimes I wish I knew. But wait, I was trying to go in that direction. Let me at the very least finish that week before I feel even more defeated. That's the point of that you can learn. That sometimes even a paragraph can be helpful enough. Even 1 second of your day can change everything else. Even one fraction of consciousness is capable of letting you gain so much is capable of satisfying so many of those necessities that everybody unavoidably has when it comes to discovery. Nobody is bound to not be affected by that. Nobody. But it is seen as something good to not care, to not even wish to learn. Yet nobody realizes how everything is out there waiting to be discovered. That is certainly a failure on the system itself of, yeah, you know what? We're not even going to try and show you why learning about this particular subject is going to be useful to you. It has to come completely from yourself. You, person who never gave about anything, a single fuck, has to, out of nowhere, develop an interest on the nature of knowledge, something completely abstract. It is meaningless to do it that way. There are so many sciences, so many fields, so many sports, so many things that wish for you to discover them, wish for you to be capable of using them, at the very least in your own minimally short life. Nothing of that sort is ever properly expressed. There is so little care in all of that. I guess, yeah, that's the point of why this whole discussion is depressing. Oh yeah, the problem is the reader. No, the problem isn't the reader only. If the problem was only the reader, we will have such a good time laughing here because yeah, the reader is such a dumb guy, such a dumb person, such an incapable one. No, you're not doing your show, neither. You're not doing your job here. And we both here know it. You're not spending as much time as you should properly letting people discover why all of the possibilities of discovering are also important. All of that knowledge that is completely available matters to any degree. It isn't your responsibility or mine, after all, so why care about that? What's the point of caring? Somebody else in the future might care, but not me, not you. Obviously, no? I don't know. The point is, once again, learn. Learn something. It's your time. Sometimes 10 minutes a day can be more than enough. And being honest, the different methods used in the present world to discover anything, to be capable of absorbing the information, are so wide that you might find the one that fully fits with your way of living. You might find something that can allow your existence to be as fulfilling as you once wished in that sense. And it isn't a dream, it is a complete reality only perceivable by those who try. It is, I don't even know if saying a promise will make it lesser than that. Anybody who spends minimally some time trying to care, trying, give it a go. 1 week of learning something that you said, yeah, you know, I wanted to continue on this path of discovery before, but I never did. 1 week. You have, throughout the year, I think it is, you have between how many? 48, 49. 50, 51 weeks, 1 week of your year. You will probably live 70 years. 1 week is that much to ask. It is too much time to say, yeah, for 1 week I will focus on seeing if learning anything is useful or not. 1 week isn't anything at all. Once again, sometimes even in just minutes, you get more information than what you did in years. There are wonderful creators out there who have condensed so much of the information that was harder to understand before, and to compress all of that into an even more understandable medium. Everything is so much better in the present. There is, even if we have lost due to time so many of the great teachers, so to speak, so many of the founders of different fields of knowledge, there is literally no better time than the present to try to discover anything. Unequivocally speaking, in this very moment, we have the best technologies that ever existed to deal with something of this sort. And people doesn't even try to care. And it is fine. It doesn't matter if nobody cares around you. It isn't a point of, oh wow, yeah, you see everyone around you. It is your responsibility to make them aware. No. Be selfish. Be completely selfish. 1 week. Discover for 1 week something meaningful, something fulfilling, something capable of allowing yourself to be an even better version of what you already are. Something that gives proper satisfaction, proper tools. There are so many tools available. I don't know, man. It's just, I guess, wild will be the proper definition of that. People have so easily dismissed all of these things, have never even tried to delve deeper. Nobody even mentions any of those things anymore. It's like, oh yeah, it's a problem, but we are going to avert our gaze from that. Why would I personally say that it exists if I, quote unquote, can't deal with that? Society is negative. It doesn't mean that you personally are obliged to be like the rest of society. But yeah, that's everything. I don't have more to say. I don't want to say anything else, really. I mean, no, 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 no. I have one more thing to say. Because I started this. At some point, I know I mentioned that. I was discussing this before, not with my younger sibling, not with a cousin who has 4 years of age. No, I was discussing this with my grandmother. Age is not a fucking excuse you can use. That, oh yeah, you know what? I have 25, 30. 40, 50, 60 years, I can't learn. As long as you can understand the words that are coming out of the mouth of any human being, the possibility for you to learn is there. As long as you can create memories, as long as you can process what is the world outside of yourself, any other excuse of, oh yeah, I am too old, I am too tired, I am too nervous, nobody supports me on learning. Those are only excuses. They are not valid reasons in any way whatsoever. But yeah, now for real, nothing else to add. I guess, yeah. No, I don't have that much more to say. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming, but I wanted to stream. I I said what I had to, what I wanted to for the last, I don't know, probably 4, 5 days, I think. I have been so interested in that. I mean, there is nothing more disappointing than to hear somebody say, yeah, I can't get what you're talking about. Because what you're saying is so hard for me to get, and your ideas are so out there, I can't even follow what you're talking about. That isn't an excuse that is valid here. Instead of this context, it isn't valid to say, yeah, you are responsible for my problems. You are the beast who obliged me to somehow care for something that I literally had no way of solving. It is your responsibility. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. No matter how hard you try to cry about it. No, it isn't. And, but yeah. Anyways, I guess I do truly have nothing else to say this time around. So as always, as I had been trying to say for the last, I don't know, like 5 hours, thank you. Thank you for being here. It has been a nice, even if short, experience. It has been fulfilling that way. I truly don't have that much more to add, and I truly don't need to say that much more. I feel like the only point that I truly had was that one. This time around, we will have in the future more opportunities to deal with whatever, but this time around, nothing else to truly add. Anyways, I guess I don't even know. Should we raise somebody? Is it is it meaningful to do it? I guess yeah. Uh, we are going to act like it is necessary, and we're going to say, oh yeah, you know what? Can this guy please raid this human being? We will do it. Also, in this case, think about it like this. Not only are we raiding, you are being. How much was the percentage? Like 1.36 or something like that of of utility. to somebody who is trying to get to partner. Very, very. That is where we are going. Numbers, the number game. Anyways. Uh, I tried to say it before. I didn't finish. Thank you for being here. It has been yet another wonderful day. Have a good one. Take care. Rest. Have a nice sleep. Do whatever it is necessary. Please, for the love of God, learn something. Use your time on meaningful activities, fulfilling ones. Knowledge is available. Pursue that. Don't don't do meaningless stuff. But yeah, whenever we're getting back here, I don't even know when. Have a good one. Until then, be happy. That's what matters, truly. Goodbye, and thank you so much. And yeah, Twitch doesn't auto stop the stream when you finish when you raid.